Good morning, everyone. Please bear with me while I just set up a little bit. Yep, that's excellent. The overflow. Thank you. Now, children, there are, Ali, don't come straight for the sweets. Nice try, though. There are some word sheets that are specifically prepared for you. You've got to look for the little star. It will come up on some of the slides, and it will help you when you're filling this in. If you can show me something like that at the end, there might be some more treats for you, but who knows? I'm going to leave them there, all right? So children, please do grab your appropriate adult and grab a pen. Children, equally, if you want to bring your adults and come and sit more towards the front here, I'd love that. We'd love to see you more involved today. You're going to need to help me and help the adults remember what I'm going to say, because we know adults at Christmas, particularly in this week between Christmas and New Year, when all our minds are a little bit fuzzy, we need some help. So come and sit down here if you want to. I'd love that. And I'm going to speak this morning. I wasn't given a ton of guidance on this one, so they let me pick freely, which always dangerous for someone training in their time. So I've picked to speak about honouring your mother and your father. Mainly because I think it's appropriate as we get to that bit between Christmas where it's been a wonderful celebration and you've probably emptied the bank account of your father and mother quite a lot. It might be good to remind yourself why you need to honour them a little bit. But honouring means many things. You know, our culture talks about honouring, doesn't it? Lots of cultures in the antiquity, in the past, have talked about honouring people. Here at King's, I would say we have an honour culture. I didn't join here until 2010. The church had been going some 25 years. And I get to respect the fact that those who've come before us have built this wonderful church that we can all sit in and enjoy. Goff and Angie, Hopley's in many generations, and there are many, many others who I can't name or see because of the lights. But what do we actually mean by honouring? Well, if we can have a slide. Oh, I'm going to do some audience participation. Children, could you tell me what the word honour means? Yes, mate, you. That means you. What does honouring mean to you?
Respecting.
Respecting. That's a great start.
Praising the Lord.
Praising the Lord. Good. This is dangerous.
Dunno.
Sorry?
Dunno.
Excellent. Thanks, son.
Ooh, pressure. Respect and, I think respect is probably a better word, best word I can think of.
Brilliant. Well, we'll end that there then, shall we? You know another one? Yeah, go on. Obeying. Oh, someone's been looking at my word sheet. Excellent. Okay, so we've got honouring, means respecting, obeying. Let's have a look at my next slide and see if there's a few clues. So guys, that little yellow star, if you see that, it'll help you with your word sheet. So the biblical noun means esteem or value and respect. So we did well there. Now, there's a Greek word that actually is time, or timor, but it's pronounced tim-e. Timau? Someone who speaks Greek, thank you for that, Debbie. And it means two different things. In one way, it means heavy or weighty. So something that's going to impact us or cost us to do. In the other way, to pay honor means to hold people, to treat them honorably, to honor them, to revere them. So all those other words we got around obeying, submitting, brilliant. That is absolutely part of it. Now, the word honor appears nearly 200 times, 199 times, in the Old Testament. And over 75% of those uses are in the books of Isaiah. We know that's a fairly weighty book about the coming king and the suffering servant. In Ezekiel, heavily used by David in the Psalms and others, and in the book of Proverbs. So we can understand that the word honor is an important word in the Bible. Now, specifically, honoring your mother and your father is mentioned twice in the Old Testament. Can anyone, and I mean anyone from the congregation, not just the children, can anyone tell me those two times where it's mentioned? Shout it out if you know. Exodus, movement of the people, yeah. Where? Where in Exodus? In the 10 Commandments. Brilliant. That's the first one. And the second one, does anyone know the second one? I'll give you double prize if you can get this. Corinthians, that's in the New Testament, but it is mentioned there. Anyone? Anyone? No? Okay. It's Deuteronomy. It's a whole chapter later. We're reminded of it. And usually when God says the same things in close proximity to each other and then adds a little bit, it means we need to remember it. So if we look at the 10 Commandments, here you go, the 10 Commandments. It's split into 4 and 6. The first 4 is how we should relate to God. The second 5 is how we should relate to each other. And if you look here, number 5, commandment number 5, says to honor your mother and father so that you will live long in the land that he has given you. So it's the 5th commandment. It's the first commandment about how we should relate to each other. So God holds the honoring of our parents very highly. It's the first thing mentioned. And it's the only commandment that comes with a blessing. If you do this, it will come with a blessing for you, that you may live long and well in the land. If we go to the next slide, please. And then in Deuteronomy, if I can say it properly, it's wonderfully repeated, but it adds a bit. So it doesn't say just so that you may live long in the land, but that it may go well with you as well. So God is telling us how important it is that we honor our parents and that it will go well for us if we do. It's the pathway to a good life. Now, children, can you help me? Yes, brilliant. I'm going to pull up another slide here, and it's a bit 100 to 1, the next slide. So if we pull up and go to full screen, you will see here, honoring your mother and father. What does the Greek word timao, got that right, mean? If you want to stand under A, that means honor. If you want to stand here in the middle under B, that means hate. And if you want to stand C, if you think it means dislike, you stand here. Can you all come and stand where you think the honor is? No, it's not. Come and stand on the... Sam, close, mate. Come on, guys, bring your appropriate adults. Be great to get them moving after Christmas as well. Where are you going to stand, Seth? Look behind you. Do you think that Timor means honor, hate, or dislike? Go and stand with the rest of them. It's the audience participation I'm in for. Do we think they're right, adults? Do we think they got it? Yay! Brilliant. Whoa, don't move. There's another one. Move to the next slide, please. Honoring your mother and father is mentioned how many times in the Old Testament? 0 if you stood where you are, 1 in the middle, or 2 on the right. Keep going. You don't understand, Isaac? Okay. Just follow everyone else. Excellent. We've got it. Herd mentality always works, doesn't it? Brilliant. So everyone on the stage, grab yourself a little chocolate, just one from either of the boxes. Well done, guys. Adults, did you get it? Did you get it? Are you good? Brilliant. That's what I was after. Okay. So, that's our first bit. Now. You forget, don't you? You forget how long it takes for a child to pick one chocolate, don't you? I must get the one I want. No one wants a Bounty or an Eclair, do they? No. Okay, well, get Mummy to help you find an Eclair then, hey? Oh, you never work with your own children, do you? Never. Brilliant. If we move on to the next slide, please, Sam. I've just got 3 really quick points for you, and I'll try and keep them as brief as I can. We're going to look at who is our mother and father. We're going to look at why Jesus honored his mother and father, and should we do it? And then we're going to look at some real reasons as to how. Now, the command to get our relationship with our parents right is so important to God because we're so important to him. Family is important to God, and we are his family. When we honor our family, it's a direct reflection of his love for us, and it's a direct reflection of how much we love him. However broken or dysfunctional, and I'm sure there's plenty of those stories in the room, he loves us. No one's exempt from this command. It's a pretty clear command. It's only a few words, and no one's exempt. Oh, they've given the answer. This is brilliant. But Chris, I hear you say, does this mean I should stay and honour my parents if things are really bad? I think we all know kind of where I'm going, the adults in the room with this. The answer is no. If that's your story, God calls you to get out of that situation and to bring anyone who might be caught in the crossfire of that situation out as well. God's heart aches for people who has endured injustices. He really does. But it does mean that we have a different heart posture for it. We can carry around the difficulties that our parents have inflicted upon us, whether minor or major, we can do that. But actually, what God calls us to in honouring our mother and our father as an absolute imperative is it means that we can release the judgment. We don't sit in the judgment seat. We can step out of that judgment seat and put God back in that judgment seat, knowing that he is a just Father who defends us with his mercy and his grace. God asks us to come to a place where we make a choice to accept that our parents were doing the best they could with the tools they had at the time. And in the fallen world, we all fall short. Caspian absolutely loves these, doesn't he? Good lad. So, okay, next slide for me, please. Guys, I'm going to need your help again. When we look at a mother and a father, does mother and a father mean just our, or come back to, please, Sam. And one more. So, our mother and our father can mean anyone. It doesn't have to mean our biological parents. Some of us don't fully know them. But it can mean absolutely anyone who has either brought you up or is in a place where they give you care or looks after you, whether they're adoptive parents, whether they're any other kind of parents. It means and includes everyone. Okay? Brill. So now, kids, can you help me again? I need some more help reminding the adults. Who does God mean by our mother and our father? Is it A, only our mum and dad, B, only our relatives, or C, everyone? I need to make these harder, don't I? These are really good. That's not the worst way, mate. Follow the crowd, particularly the Christian crowd, I'll say. Cool, well done. Right, next question. Let's have a look again. Does God ask us to honour our parents for what they did and forgive them for when they got it wrong? Do we say yes, A, no in the middle, or if they do what I want them to do, in the right? This herd mentality thing works really well, doesn't it? It's great. Oh, do you know what that means? Well done, guys. Thanks for helping the adults. That means more chocolate for you guys. Come and grab a bit. Sam, can we move on? Next slide, please. So my next point is about why did Jesus do that? Why did he honour his parents? And should we follow that example, given in mind what we've already talked about? So we're going to look now at our passage for the day, which is Luke 12, 41 to 51. And it's fairly big there. Kids, little hint, there's some things on your word sheet to help out there. Come on, that'll do. Come on. Good lad, Robin. Brilliant. Okay, so the passage it says here, I'm just going to read it for us. Every year, Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the Passover feast. And when Jesus was 12 years old, children, they went up to the feast as usual. After the feast was over, his parents left to go back home. The boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but they were not aware of it. They thought he was somewhere in the crowd as they traveled home. So they traveled on for a day. Then they began to look for him among their relatives and friends. They didn't find him. So they went back to Jerusalem and looked for him. And after 3 days, they found him in the temple courtyard. He was sitting with the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And everyone who heard him was amazed at how much he understood. They were also amazed at his answers. When his parents saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said to him, "Son, why have you treated us like this? Your father and I have been worried about you. We've been looking for you everywhere. Jesus replied, why were you looking for me? Of course, 12-year-old boy. He asked, didn't you know I had to be in my father's house? But they didn't understand what he meant. Then he went back to Nazareth with them, and he obeyed them, or he honored them. But his mother kept all these things like a secret treasure in her heart. Now, the importance of Jesus' age being mentioned there. Jesus was 12. I know for most of you that's sort of just about pre-teens, which can be a difficult time. But in the ancient world, it pretty much meant you were an adult. Jesus was about to become an adult. And it's likely that he was more competent in his knowledge of the scriptures at this point than his parents was. He was, after all, still fully God, whilst fully man. But he knew his Old Testament, and he was bound by God's covenant in the Ten Commandments to honor his mother and his father. And this provides us with an essential lesson. Godly submission, which is what we're doing in honoring our mother and our father, it isn't about how old we are, how smart we are, how skilled we are, or how experienced we are. It's about honoring what God has asked us to do. And that's what is most important. So, that's why spending time in this thing, the Bible, the most important resource any of us could ever have, is really important. If we want to reflect God in our life, we have to read this. We have to know it, and we have to know what God calls us to. And that is really, really important. But godly submission doesn't happen on its own without effort. And that's effort on both sides. From our parents, they put in lots of effort to us children, promise you, even though we might not see it for a little while. And children, the effort on your part is to listen to them and try and understand what they're telling you. Jesus learned his obedience at Mary and Joseph's feet. And if we want to follow God, we need to be obedient to our parents too. Jesus' ultimate submission was to his Father, in that he would go to the cross. But the importance of this passage is for when, by spending that time of learning at his parents' feet, it prepared him to fulfill his ultimate mission from his Father, which was to go to the cross. He honored his parents and he honored his Father by going to the cross, taking all of our sins and enacting God's great rescue plan for us. That was Jesus honoring. And if it was true for him, it's true for us. We need to honor our parents too. Hopefully, as we all get older, one day Jesus is going to ask us to honor people around us. He might ask us to lead people in work. He might ask us to support people around us as well. And if we learn to honor people from the bottom up, then we'll be good at honoring them from the top down, just as Jesus was. Okay, so next slide, please, Sam. If we can go big on this. This is children, and I'm thinking particularly teenagers here. This is an important one. These are the 5 most followed Instagram accounts, but it could have been TikTok or any other form of social media. The Rock has over 151 million followers. Selena Gomez, 154. Ariana Grande, 161. Cristiano Ronaldo, 179 million followers. But if we total up Jesus' followers, it's 2.38 billion, 10 times more than Cristiano Ronaldo. If we want to base our lives on something, we probably want to base our lives on what Jesus tells us. Okay? Cool. Right, so let's go back to 100 to 1 so that you guys can help us. Children, up on the stage. Go big again. Brilliant. Children, this should be an easy one. Was Jesus right to honor his parents? Yes, no, or not sure? Excellent, well done. Next slide, please, Sam. Why was Jesus right to honor his parents? Is it because it was God's command? Is it because Instagram told him? Or is it just cause? Nobody moved. Insta? Who said Insta? Brilliant. Well done, guys. You can grab yourself another chocolate. Even though you said Instagram. So Jesus did it, and that's why we should as well. Finally, we're just going to have a little look at how we do this. So how do we practically live that out in our lives? Well, it's not a massive list of do's and don'ts, but we remember that in the New Testament, honoring your parents is mentioned 6 times, or honoring your mother and father is mentioned 6 times. And the basics of coming from that is we choose to forgive forwards. We choose to look at our parents, recognize that they did the best that they did, and forgive them forwards, just as we're going to need great forgiveness for the problems that we're going to have as parents and caregivers. I shudder a look in my children's face at times for the things that I promised I would never do that my parents did to me, that I still do. Anyone feel like that sometimes as a parent? There's at least one honest man in the room. Thanks, Ed. Look, we all get it wrong. None of us are perfect. And there's no judgment for us. No judgment for me, certainly. I'm the worst. But I think when you know the Father heart of God, when you know that Abba Father, that Father who looks at you every time you stuff up and goes, I still love you. Let's work it out. When we know the Abba Father heart of God, we've been forgiven much, and therefore we can forgive much. And that's really important. We can include our parents in our everyday life. I'm terrible at this. I've become terrible at it, and it's certainly something I need to change. We can care for them as they get older. Man, they cared for us when we were young. And we can choose to remember some of the positives, the things they did well, not necessarily focus on all the things that they didn't quite get right. So in conclusion, honoring our parents is a biblical call. Jesus, it's not a biblical call, and by Jesus, it is hard to do. Let's wrestle with doing it well so that our earthly parents and our Father in heaven can be honored. If this sort of topic or this preacher's has brought up some questions for you, do come and grab me, Goff, or Andy at the end, and we'd be more than happy to talk it through with you. And I'd love you, and all the children, would you join me on stage for a little prayer? We'd love to say a prayer into the new year. Children, the final thing on your sheets is writing down one thing that you could do to honor your parents for next year. While it's great for the children to write it down, I'd challenge all the adults as well to maybe have a little think about how we can honor those who've been parents in our lives. Hello, Olivia. Are you all going to come with me? Can you come up on stage, children, and just say this prayer with me? It's right here. We're all going to say it into the mic. That's well done. Brilliant. So we're going to say this all together, everyone. A prayer. Father, honoring is hard. We know we don't get it right. Many times our actions won't mirror your will. We ask for your forgiveness. Bless those who've come before us. Help us to honor our parents and our caregivers. Help us to forgive and leave judgment to you. Help us as children to honor our parents. Praise to you for making a way for us, regardless of our shortcomings. May we call on your leveling love always. Amen. Thank you so much. Grab a sweet on your way out. I'm going to hand back over now to the band who are going to lead us into music. Thank you so much.